Call on Andy Foster.
Speaker, thank you. This is the first general debate, I think, since the election. It was a historic election. So we had a single-party government for the first time under MMP, and it managed to lose half of its members. Half of its members in one fell swoop. It was swept from power. Now, I guess you could say in the wake of that, the Leader of the Opposition said that they needed to take a good, hard look at themselves and look in the mirror and say, well, what went wrong? Well, I suppose they don't seem to have started that process at the moment, so maybe we will help them out. They do need a very big mirror, but maybe we'll help them out just a little bit. New Zealanders quite clearly, Mr Speaker, wanted change. They wanted change, and we made a pretty big change this morning. They wanted change from an overbearing, controlling, centralising government. They didn't like that at all. They didn't like their assets being taken away from their local councils and taken away by central government. Well, we didn't like that either. They didn't like they were suffering under a high cost of living, and we're working very, very hard to deal with that. High inflation, high interest rates. Brought on. We know now that it's not really driven by international inflation rates. It's driven by domestic rates. It's driven by too much spending, and that gave us. What did it give us? Not a lot, apart from a lot of debt and a lot of pain. Far too much money was spent by the government. They were also concerned about poor economic performance. All of those things go together to make poor economic performance, and we need to lift that. They recognised our failures in education. They recognised that far too many of our young people weren't at school. Far too many of our young people weren't learning the things that they needed to learn, or they need to learn, to make sure that they are equipped for life, not only as New Zealanders but as international citizens. They recognised the failures in health. I mean, crikey, we had a pandemic. You'd think that was a real focus on health. And what did we do? We actually sent medical professionals back home to wherever they came from because we couldn't find it within ourselves to keep them here in this country. We squandered opportunities there. We squandered a lot of opportunities in a health catastrophe to look at our health system. Our people recognised the division in our society. You could see the numbers. The polling said that we were more divided than ever before. Our people recognised that. Today we've removed the divisive three waters. Divisive for many reasons. Divisive because of the way the government beat up on councils. Divisive because of the way in which people from different ethnicities were treated in different ways. We're also working very hard to put together, and we're consulting on this, an inquiry into COVID. Why are we doing that? Because a lot of people suffered from that as well. They felt divided, they felt alienated. That's why we saw people out on the Parliament lawns. They felt alienated by their own government, which didn't listen to them. There's a big, big mirror to be looked at. And that's why we're engaging on a proper COVID inquiry, not a butt-covering exercise. Mr Speaker, the three coalition members have come together and we are delivering at speed on what we promised. And actually we heard from the Honourable Deborah Russell just a few moments ago about there are far too many things in the first 100 days. But remember, it is the first 100 days. It's not 3 years, it's not 6 years, 9 years, 12 years. It's the first 100 days that are negative. They say they are negative. Well, they're getting rid of the things. But I always thought that a negative was positive. And why are we doing that? Because we've got to get rid of those things before they confuse the people, whether it doesn't matter who it is, who's got to implement something that the government has put in place, the previous government's put in place, that we don't want to carry on. Why would you want them to do new planning rules? Why would you want them to do, new water systems? Why would you want any of those things? Why not get rid of them straight away, clean slate, and be able to move ahead? And that's exactly what we're doing. That's why there's quite a few repeals and getting rid of and stops. But then there'll be the starts, and we're looking forward to doing that. Mr Speaker, I am privileged to be the chair of the Transport and Infrastructure Select Committee. And what we really, really need, and Tanya, it's great to have you on there, it's very, very clear that we have an infrastructure deficit. What is not clear is that it's just about how much money we spend, but how well we spend it, how efficiently we spend it, and how effective we are about what we choose to do. So the first thing is, are we investing in the right things? And we've got to make sure that we are investing in the right things. We've got to make sure that we have good business cases behind those things. We've got to make sure that we have the workforce to deliver those things. What we know is that our construction industry actually has not been improving in productivity, and we have to be laser focused on making sure that we are more efficient, more effective, because we want to increase living standards. It's not just good enough to throw more and more people, more and more resources at something. We have to get more and more out of that. We need to get the right signals and make sure that we remove the inefficiencies from that area. So, Mr Speaker, I am delighted to be part of this government. We are going to make massive changes in our community, for our community. And I'll just finish off by saying it's really not about us, it's really not about you, it's about what we together can do to make our wonderful country a much, much better place, a much more productive place, a much more prosperous place for us all to live in.